I got your autograph. Right there is my autograph.
Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I'm Ashley Sledge,
And I'm Ken Sledge.
and let's defend horror.
So today we are joined once again by one of our absolute favorites, the dude who loves movies, Cody Loki. Cody, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited to talk about a movie that nobody talks about. And if they do, it's not very positive.
There is not a lot of positive about this movie. So everything we've read, very negative.
For the most part, yes,
yeah.
but we will get into that.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that.
Mhm.
But first, if you guys haven't already, make sure you're following Cody. We have all his social media links as well as his YouTube link in the description. So make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube so you can become a part of his YouTube family if you haven't already. So can you tell people that don't know you a little bit what you do over there at the channel?
Yeah, so my name is Cody. I'm from Dude Who Loves Movies. I talk a lot about retro stuff, like movies from like my childhood or from like the 80s and 90s, things that I like that a lot of people don't really I like or really talk about anymore. I like to bring a light on to these things like Ernest Scared Stupid or something like Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. But I do talk about newer movies that come out that I like, but I really just I love discovering older movies from the 90s and 80s that I may have missed. And I like talking about movies and introducing them to people who may have missed them as well or weren't even alive or born.
Mhm.
Dishes are done, man.
Yeah, dishes are done.
Dude, I love that face-off shirt too.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so legit.
You got Leppy in the back.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Leprechaun.
amazing, man.
That's so cool.
Yeah. There
Oh,
was
Leppy.
there are a lot of bad movies or guilty pleasure movies that I love that a lot of people don't, and Leprechaun is one of them. So when you asked me to be on the show, I was like, man, I have a list of movies that I love that other people do not. And I was like, you know what? Nobody talks about this movie. This is either going to be a popular episode or no one's going to watch it because the movie is just so. It's a different kind of movie, and that, like I said, I feel like. So I saw this with like 4 people, and 3 of us liked it, and then I haven't heard one other person say that they like this movie.
Well, do you want to tell everybody what movie we are defending today?
We are going to be talking about my man John Travolta in the 2019 The Fanatic.
Yes.
And I didn't want to bring light to it, but the shirt
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm a huge John Travolta fan. So I mean, this is a weird story. I don't know if you have time for the story, but when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, I didn't grow up with a father, so I watched Look Who's Talking, and when I was a little kid, I was like, I want James to be my father. Like he seems like the coolest dad. So
awesome.
I've always loved John Travolta, and I watch all his movies. I'm just a big fan of his.
PP in the party.
Yeah.
And it's not awesome that you grew up without a dad, but at least you were able to find some type of like inspiration or someone, to help you become the person that you are today. Because honestly, man, the person you are today is fucking rad. So
Thank you. I
we're
appreciate
really
that.
glad that we have you here.
Absolutely.
Now, before we get into the movie, we want to talk about, obviously, we always go on a Rotten Tomato scale just because it's kind of universal when it comes to critiquing. This movie has a tomato meter of 14%.
Yeah.
And an audience score of 31%, which gives us an average of about 23%.
Wow.
Now, what I want to say about this is, we've seen a lot of the major criticisms, and we're Ashley's going to get into those, but I think a lot of people wrote this off immediately because of Fred Durst. And while I'm not a huge Limp Bizkit fan, I never really have been. I think they got a couple bangers, but man, give the movie a shot if you haven't seen it. Yeah, it's directed by Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit. It has John Travolta. It has Devon Sawa. It has a good cast. It has a good, I didn't expect this type of movie from Fred Durst. I mean, you do get the car where he's like, listen to Limp Bizkit.
Say this is a banger.
Yeah,
This is a banger. Yeah, and it's a song nobody's heard of.
Right. This is some underground Biscuit song.
He was like, you're putting that in my movie.
Yeah. So you got to love that little nod to himself, and that genuinely made me laugh when I at that moment. I was like, "That's brilliant. That's genius. I would do the same thing if I was him."
Exactly. 100.
And I think every Limp Bizkit fan, or even people that aren't Limp Bizkit fans but respect what Limp Bizkit did, watch Woodstock '99, bro, and tell me what it did not have an impact on people.
Yeah, man, and yeah, I have tickets to see Limp Bizkit, so it's my first time seeing them.
Oh,
And,
nice.
that's dope, dude.
It's them and Corey Feldman, so we'll see.
Oh, that's what a combination, man.
Yeah, so we'll see how
Growing
that
up, I wasn't
goes.
a huge Limp Bizkit fan. I was more like in the punk rock scene. But
We were just listening to it the other day. You had like a playlist of
I did put together a little Bizkit playlist, man.
Well,
I had some Boiler on there.
well, you know what it is like I know it's some music from our past that like I didn't like because I grew up not liking Ja Rule. I was a big 50 Cent fan, so I was like, beef. I always followed the beef, so I was like, I don't like Ja Rule. I went and saw Ja Rule in concert because he was like opening for Nelly or whatnot, and it was. The sound was so nostalgic to where it's like, man, I love this song. Oh, I love this song. So it's like all of a sudden I'm like this huge fan of Ja Rule without knowing I'm a big fan of Ja Rule.
Yeah,
and that's how I feel like she said, we were listening to some old Limp Bizkit. I put together like a new metal playlist. It had like Korn, Limp Bizkit, Rob Zombie, like all these like new metal stuff, and like the few select songs that I liked. And while I say I wasn't a huge Bizkit fan, the songs I like, I fucking like, man. Like I dig them hard. Like oh man, like I said, Boiler. I think that's my favorite Limp Bizkit song. That song is so
Boiler,
good, man. But we do got to talk about some criticisms of the movie.
So these are the criticisms I read online. Pacing was all over the place. Why have a narrator if she isn't consistent when she talks? John Travolta's acting is very uncomfortable to watch, and many angered by his portrayal of an autistic character.
We're going to circle back.
I was going to say, I want to get into
We're going to circle back to that in a minute.
The twist is laughable. It leaves you with so many questions. It's unintentionally hilarious. Unlikable characters and no closure to the ending are the ones that I read most. So
real quick, we want to circle back to the autism thing because one thing that really irritated me when we read that,
his son Jet, his
John Travolta's late son Jet was autistic,
and I feel us being
autistic aunt and uncle, autistic parents,
and we're very aware there's a huge spectrum,
right?
And you can't just narrow it down to this is autistic, this is autistic.
Autism doesn't have a playbook.
He could have done his portrayal from how his son was.
Right.
You don't know what kind of autism there is. There's such a huge spectrum.
Right. And there's not one thing where you can be like, this is what an autistic person does. This is what an autistic person does not do.
Yeah.
And so when I read that, I was like, that's super, like, again, I'm not trying to be all like snowflakey.
Yeah.
Like, that's super insensitive to be like, oh, his portrayal of an autistic person is not very well done. When, like Ashley said, he could have modeled that around his late son that was autistic. You have no idea where he took his inspiration for that character from. And as an autistic dad, I think it's really weak for you to be like, oh, he didn't play that well or how it should have been played.
Honestly, I think a lot of like the rocking and like the not like he didn't make eye contact, stuff like that, like that I picked up on. It felt real. It felt real to me. Yeah. So
see, and I have autism in my family as well. And so when I saw this, and I saw that he actually took the role because of his late son, Jet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is actually one of his favorite roles. I read that it was his favorite role, but I don't know if it actually is. I saw that on IMDb, so take that with a grain of salt. But when I was watching the movie, I remember like me and my friends, like I said, I saw it with 4 people, and halfway through it, one of my friends like, "You want to leave?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh, you like this?" I was like, "Yeah." Well, anyways, after the movie, we all got out there, so I was expecting all 3 of them to be like, "Oh man, I don't like this." And the 3 of the 4 were like, "No, I really like that." And I was like, "Hey, he reminded me of so and so," and everyone's like, "Oh, he reminded me of so." Like we all had a different person that John Travolta reminded us of. And then when I was talking to other people, they're like, there's no way people act like. I was like, no, like he did such a great job. I think he did such a great job. I think it was just seeing John Travolta act that way was jarring for people, and it was at a time where people don't take his acting career serious. So I think that's what it was. And maybe if it was somebody else who played it, it would have done a little better for somebody. Like you said, like an unknown or somebody,
Right. And he's so good at his role here that you feel for him, even though a lot of the times he's in the wrong.
Yeah, like he does cross
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
lines, but you're like, God, Devin Sawa, he's such a
Yeah,
dickhead.
Hunter
Like,
Dunbar is a fucking
yeah,
cocksucker,
Hunter
man.
Dunbar, like, man, like his character.
You want an autograph? I'll give you a fucking autograph.
Well, so I was battling the whole time because I rewatched it last night. I saw it in theaters. I bought it on VHS. I bought it on Blu-ray, and then I watched it again last night. So this is my second time watching it, and it was weird. I kept going back and forth to where it's like, okay, so I've never been in this situation before. So
Right.
if I was, I would probably, if you're not used to, dealing with someone like that, or it's not familiar territory,
Right.
you may not know how to talk to him. So he was just angered, Dunbar.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes I was like, okay, that's exactly what I would do, or sometimes like that's not what I would do, and I felt the whole time I felt bad for John Travolta's character. I'm Moose. I was like, what is his
Moose,
name?
baby.
Moose. Yeah. He just, he didn't have guidance. He had people watching out for him, but not really
steering him in the wrong directions at times.
Yeah, I know. It's like you feel bad for him, and he needs help, and he doesn't know he's doing anything bad. You know.
Right. In his mind, he just, he wants these things signed. He collects them, and like I said, I know a lot of autistic people that once they get their mind set to something, and then you break that, like when he's in the line at the store for the autograph, and then Hunter has to leave. He's like, wait, hold on, I'm next. So a normal person could understand and be like, you know what, he's got to go off and be dad
going on.
But
he didn't understand.
On the spectrum that's been, this is something that
I was next. This is what I came
this is my
for.
turn.
This is what I'm gonna get.
Right.
Yeah, and if not, I'm going to stalk you.
Right, I'm gonna go crazy. So why did this movie mean so much to you, Cody? Why was this the movie you chose to defend?
Yeah.
So I wanted to defend this because so many people hate this movie, and I was like, there's got to be a reason why a handful of people out of all these people like this movie. And when I watch this, like, it's considered a thriller horror, but it's a sad, tragic story to me.
Absolutely.
I like, it's not scary. Like, yes, what he's doing, like, that's freaky. If you put yourself in each person, it's a different scenario or a different situation where you have to put yourself, like I said, in Dunbar's situation. He's in his house. He has a kid that he needs to protect, so he doesn't want this guy coming back. So, he does what he has to do, and he's being mean, but he figures out later on that he's like, oh wait, that's not how to deal with him, and he, you see that he starts dealing with him a little differently. But I like I said, I liked it because it was just like, first of all, I like obsession fan movies, but this one hit a little different because of the spectrum spectrum light on it, and it struck really close to home, because especially in like the collecting world, like when he was in like the poster shop, like I know people like that, people who are like, it's just like, it was very familiar to me.
And you're right, and I will say I really defend Moose up until he goes into Dunbar's house. That's too far.
He definitely crossed the line, but at the same time, it's just like you gotta get healthier.
You gotta get healthy. You need ice cream in this house.
You have no ice cream in the fridge at all.
I'll work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strawberry ice cream.
But
strawberry ice cream. Yeah.
When he has him tied up and shit, and he's like, just don't hurt my son. Like, at that moment, you're like, no, don't say that.
You definitely do. Like, you can put yourself in everybody's like shoes.
Except for breaking into someone's house. Like, that's the part where I'm like, Moose,
you can't do that.
Come on, man. So, like I said, you had these moments in this movie, like where the bathroom scene where Moose is in there with that guy that's always messing with him. Like, Moose, stand up for yourself, man. Like, I know you're scared. Like, because I always put myself in these movies. And for those who don't know Ken Sledge, that know Sledgehammer Horror, we've talked about it before, but autism is extremely important to Ashley and I. Not only do we have autism very, very close to us, I worked as a paraprofessional in the schools here in our town. I worked with autistic children, and I'm still very close with one of them. He just stayed the night at our house last night. He still comes over because change is very hard. And I started working with him in second grade. He's about to be a freshman, and he's still a part of our family. Autism is something that Ashley and I very, very much fight for and advocate for.
For sure.
But so a part of me even stronger is like, come on, Moose. Come on, buddy.
Like,
come on. And then the friends that are like, well, here, I'll give you this, Moose, but don't go to his house,
You
Moose.
know
You're like,
better.
you know what he's
I
gonna
know.
do.
You know
Yeah.
better.
Like, you
Like
know.
you're supposed to be his BFF. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Don't do that.
yes.
Yeah.
So is there a favorite moment that you could think of that stands out?
So, I mean, dang, honestly, there's a lot of moments that really like are are like even watching it for a second time, I was like, oh, what are you doing? Like when he's just like walking around the house with Dunbar there and he's sleeping and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like, get up. And then he falls asleep next to him. He's like taking pictures of him, posting himself on social media. And I can see that being a complaint too. People are like, how did nobody see that on social media? I have a feeling Moose just didn't have many friends and nobody saw
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Did you see all these people? Sometimes people will cry out for help, and then like later, like there are people who will have blogs and like, hey, I'm going to do this and that, and nobody sees it until after something happens, and then they
Because
go
then
back.
it blows up when people start
Yeah.
doing the digging.
Yeah.
And then they go back and they're like, this guy was telling us about this for 6 months every day, but nobody did anything about it because nobody saw it. So that's
Right.
that's what I defend on that part. But
That's fucking deep, dude. Like that hurt my chest. Like that was
Yeah.
that was deep as fuck. I didn't expect to feel emotional while we were talking about this movie, but
I mean, this
that was
movie really does bring a lot of like emotion though. Like you feel a lot. Like
just like he just said, like there is that calling for help, but he doesn't have an audience to be able to help him.
yeah.
Oh my God, I got goosebumps. Like that fucking hit me, man. Like that was beautiful. Seriously, Cody. Like I'm not being like funny. Like that was seriously beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, like I said, I watched this movie and I look at it as like such a tragic story.
Right.
And and like even at the end when they talk about he was very concerned about it, but then at the end, like later on, he took it as a badge of honor. Like even I felt bad for him when he was screaming at the end after he got his arm shot and whatever.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad for him. But then it's like, no, like he's broke into this house. But then again,
Right.
it's like they don't really he walks into the house, right? I can't remember. Like they don't really show him get into the house. He's already in the house.
Right.
So I feel like he's just like he gets distracted because they show it with the with the maid after
Yeah.
after she hits her head, he's talking to her and he's like, oh no, blah blah blah. And then he hears like the chimes and he looks at the chimes, then all of a sudden he's on a different path.
Right.
And then he could have been there's the door. I'll wait for Dunbar. And he opened up, that could have been the whole thing. And I think he wanted to get that letter back. So I think that's what was the whole thing. He had to get that letter back, and it kept in his mind kept replaying. And then everyone kept calling him a stalker, and he was not a stalker. Or
Right.
he claimed he wasn't a
Yeah.
stalker. And then when Dunbar calls him a stalker, that he goes home and he dwells on it. And
Yeah.
it's just replays over and over in his head. He's like, how could you say that about me? So he was going back to get his revenge. It has revenge, but even like being like, I'm not a stalker, even though it's like you have me tied up, man.
Right.
Right. You're trying
like
to quote movies to me,
it's-
bro.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very hard to defend Moose when you just when you're looking at it with certain lenses. Like you have to be in a different mindset. And I feel like people watching this were just watching it and being like, I don't like what is going on here. Like nobody would act like this. No one would do that. But you don't know everybody.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, also for like celebrities, you don't know what they go through, and like, people feel like they are owed and, you're here because of me type thing. So it like you feel bad for Moose and you want him just to get his autograph, and probably this never would have happened. But yeah.
and that's just it. Like you have him, if you would have just signed it for him.
Yeah.
Like, because when he was outside the house the first
Like,
time,
he was already pissed because his wife is like, I'm going on a date. You need to take your son. And then he's like, I'm done with the signing. Like, and like, why are you following me outside to get your son?
I'm talking about when he goes to his house the first time and he's outside.
Yeah.
He's like, I just want you to sign this for me, Mr. Dunbar. And at that point, he could have just been like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me sign this and let you go on your way.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, I know. But
I took it as rewarding that kind of behavior. So he didn't want to do that. Yeah, because then he'd show up, or more people show up.
Right.
So that's why it's like, hey, this isn't he even says this isn't a place.
Home.
Yeah, this is my home. This is not a place to send a letter to.
Yeah, this is where my son, sleeps. This is where I live. Like, you know, you shouldn't just show up here. There's a time and a place.
I get, like I said, I get it. I can see both sides.
Hard. It's hard
exactly.
to.
I think it's the part of me that's rooting for Moose so hard.
Yeah.
Not on my
And
Moose blinds.
You feel so bad for him, like because you know his life isn't great.
Well, and it sucks because everyone's telling him you got to stand up for yourself. You got to stand up for yourself. And then when he does stand up for himself, people are like, whoa, that's not what we were talking about. So it's like damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. But it's like, okay, you took that the wrong way, you kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, this movie, we talked about some of the positives that you love about it, but what are some of your biggest criticisms of the film?
So there is, it's weird, like, yeah, like all like randomly in the movie they'll have the voice or the narrator, and then they'll have the random, like all of a sudden the photos were there, or not photos, but the drawings
like the
and
sketches.
stuff. Yeah, it just, I feel like they had an idea but they didn't really go for it. And I think a reason might be maybe they ran out of budget and they're like, okay, well, we can only do this and that, so let's just do what we can, or this is what we have already, let's save it for, you know, the effects, or save it for a release, save it for whatnot.
Yeah.
And I agree with that too. And like I said, the ending does still make me go, what happens now?
Yeah.
And I get not everything needs to be wrapped up in a bow. I get that. I respect it. I understand it. But I would like some type of closure to what happens here.
Like,
see, I took it as Dunbar, he's not gonna go to jail for this, but he's not gonna have a good day or a good night. I feel like he's being quiet until he gets to the to wherever he's or to the jail or whatever, and then he'll have his lawyer and he'll talk to his lawyer about it. But then when they talk about how Moose took it as a badge of honor, it's like, well, did he ever get caught then, or what? But then again, he doesn't have to get caught to be in prison and be like, hey, this is my, you know, my badge of honor, you know. So I don't know that, you know, they left it open for us to determine and maybe you know, pick what we want to happen. And I know that people don't like that. So
I mean, I do like an ending that's open to interpretation, and you know, because we can connect the dots ourselves.
I feel like Moose is out on Hollywood Boulevard, and now he's got his hand cut off, and he looks super cool, and he's making money.
Making lots of money.
He's making lots of money because of his scars. Yeah.
So you know, we're talking about this movie, and with it being a standalone movie, usually we ask what your favorite in the franchise is. This is a standalone movie, so we're going to skip that question. But you know, we're going to give our final ranking out of 10 now. You know, 10 being the best, 0 being the worst. If you were going to put a number on the Fanatic, where would you put this movie?
So again, it's not like I don't love this movie, but I really like it, and I champion it, and I feel like more people need to look at it in different lenses or give it a chance. I would give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
That's exactly my score.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to bite on you, but the performances alone move this up to that, because John Travolta, like you said, I feel like if they would have had a lesser known actor, maybe that role would have been a little bit better received. Yeah. But since it's Boogie, you know, John Travolta, you know, Grease Lightning out there doing this, people are going to have a little bit of a different opinion on it. But I love John Travolta's serious stuff. Like when he did that movie with Vince Vaughn, where the
Domestic Disturbance. Yeah.
Domestic Disturbance.
Yeah, that's like, a great movie.
Blew me away the first time I seen it, man.
He's got really good range.
Yes. Yeah. And in that movie, like the first 2 movies I ever seen Vince Vaughn in, Psycho and Domestic Disturbance.
Yeah.
So people were like, this guy's so funny. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's so funny. My sister hated Vince Vaughn until we saw Wedding Crashers, and then she's like, and then after that she's like, oh, he's great, you know. Same with like Gary Sinise. He plays that role of a bad guy, but
so well.
But you know, he does have other roles where you're like, no, but you look at him, you're like, I don't like that guy, but it's because he plays this role so good.
Right. Yeah. So what would you give out of 10?
I'm actually gonna kind of piggyback off you guys, and
we got that 666 going on here, ladies and gentlemen. We did not plan that.
No, we did not.
I am happy to hear that you guys have some kind of love for it, because honestly,
absolutely,
I don't hear it anywhere.
If anything, this movie, I was never bored with it. The entire time, I'm just like, you know, either saying like, "What are you doing, Moose?" or
anxiety, man. I'm just like,
yeah. Like, dude,
Especially-
you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna
Especially
get
when he's in that house, you're just like, Moose, what did you do? Like,
Yeah.
what did you do, Moose? And when he
I
comes
know.
out, he's got the mask on. You're like, Moose, stop! And he's got the gas can. The
Yeah.
gas can got me, dude.
And he's
like,
singing
"Don't
Stuck
burn
in the
my
Middle."
house down, and he starts laughing, and he's
Yeah.
so pleased with himself. Like, I got done barred. Like,
Yeah. He's like, I'm a good actor, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah. And I love the references too. Like when he's doing that, he's like, Mr. Pink or Mr. White or whatever, from Reservoir Dogs. So that's what he does. And he starts singing Stuck in the Middle with You. And, and John Travolta starts singing that song. There's all like those references. Those are pretty cool. All those references, like the Jamie Lee Curtis references. I liked it all, And then he's, I wish Freddy Krueger would come get you and chop you up. And,
It's
cool.
so good, man. Like I think this is a movie that is worth watching. It is free on Tubi right now, guys. So if you haven't seen it, please check it out. Like I said, you got John Travolta acting his ass off. You got Devin Sawa playing just the most narcissistic asshole, but at the same time, someone you can understand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like
He's a good
there
dad.
for his son.
Yeah.
Like he wants to be a good dad, but like, why are you kissing the maid? Like, there's
Yes,
obviously
he's still a piece of shit.
yeah,
you
there's
know, like,
obviously a reason his wife left him and wants to go on a date with
Yeah.
someone else.
he's like, we already decided we can't do this anymore, and he's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And in his
Yeah.
eye, he's
like,
I don't
okay,
give a shit.
okay, but yeah, he didn't care really because.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna do your final defense. Say you have like 30 seconds to tell someone that's seen it or someone that has never seen it before why they should go and watch The Fanatic. What would you say to them?
So you need to watch The Fanatic either for the first time or the second time and look at it with different perspective. Look at it from each person, especially from Moose's perspective. Just put yourself in his world, in his mind, and look at all the little things that he's doing. He thinks he's not doing anything right. I'm sorry, he thinks he's not doing anything wrong, and he's trying to be the best person that he can. And it's just society is working against him.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, like we said, guys, you need to check this movie out if you haven't seen it. It is free on Tubi. I will include that link down in the description as well, because this is one of those movies that, like Cody said, it gets a bad rep because of reasons that we've already talked about. But you should still go in and check this movie out for yourself. And like I said, going with the open mind of not all autistic people are the exact same. You can't paint them by numbers. They're just like us.
There's a huge spectrum.
Yeah, there's a huge spectrum.
Yeah.
Just because I act a certain way doesn't mean Cody's gonna. It doesn't mean Ashley's gonna. You can't say somebody that's not autistic has to act this way.
Right.
It's the same thing with autism, guys. They're still human beings and they are all their own person. So go into it with that type of open mind. And like we said earlier, maybe Jet was a huge inspiration for John in this movie, and that's why he acted the way he did. So let us know in the comments, guys. What are your thoughts about The Fanatic? What would you rank that movie out of 10? And if you haven't seen it, please do come back and let us know your thoughts on The Fanatic. Cody, please don't go anywhere, my friend. We got a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps to build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are down in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror.
Stay who you are.
I will see you guys soon.
Bye.